I've got the start to a sweater here. I worked the yoke, but then I paused for a little bit to work my folded collar. So I've made my ribbing twice the height that I want it to be in the end. And then now I'm going to fold it and do a join where I knit around on the inside of it and bind off at the same time. So it takes away a bit of sewing if you're not a fan of sewing. Let's go to the beginning of my round. And whenever you decide that you want to fold it, this is what you'll do. So I have my knit stitch that I started with at my beginning of round. I'm going to follow that all the way to the bottom here and then kind of see where that stitch is all the way at the bottom, hold it with my thumb, and then I can see where that purl bump is on the inside. So this is a knit stitch on the outside, on the right side here. That's a knit stitch. So on the inside, it'll be a purl. So I'm picking up the actual bar of the purl stitch there. So I kind of pulled it up here. You can see that loose stitch there, I pulled it. The next one is a purl on the right side, so it's a knit on the wrong side. And so you'll pick up the bar there. And then the next one will be a purl again. So I'm picking up the actual bar of the stitch itself. In other videos, I've done a method where you pick up from the sweater itself where you picked up your stitches for the neckband originally from the actual body of the sweater. You picked up from the cast on edge there. So you can do it that way. This one is quickly becoming my favorite. So let's get started. Again, we will look at that first column of purl stitches, or sorry, knit stitches, and follow that all the way to the bottom and grab that purl on the inside. And I'm gonna put it on my needle, on the left needle, there. And we're going to knit it together with the stitch that was already on the needle. So I have two stitches here, right? The one I picked up and then my knit stitch that was already there. I'll knit it together. And then now I have a purl stitch here. So if I follow that purl column all the way down, I will have a knit stitch on the inside here. And I'm gonna pick up that bar right there. It's a little tough to see, that bar of that knit stitch. So I picked up the purl one here. It's pulled a little bit, but it's right there. And then I'm gonna pick up the bar of the knit stitch and put it on the needle and knit it together. Now once I have those two stitches worked, I'll bind off one. So I'm gonna pick up the first knit two together that I worked and pass it over my right needle. And so I've bound off one stitch. So that I will repeat all the way around. As soon as I have two stitches, I pass it over. So let's go one more time. For that knit stitch column, I'm gonna look for a purl here. So I just picked up that knit stitch bar. I'm gonna pick up this purl stitch bar right here. Put it on the needle and knit two together. And then pass the first stitch over, so that's bound off. And then eventually, as you work all the way around, you'll only have this one stitch left on the needle, and then you can weave in the tail. So I just did a purl stitch, and now the next knit stitch, I'll pick up the bar of that knit stitch there and knit it together. And pass that first stitch over. So if you think about opposites, right? So you have a knit column, your next will be a purl. And then when you have a purl column, your next will be a knit. I'm at the last couple stitches here, and it might get a little difficult to work into these just because this gap gets smaller and smaller. So my very last one is a purl stitch, so I'm going to find the very last knit stitch there. And then, now when I only have one left, I'm going to just join it together and weave that end in. So actually I'll have a little bit of yarn left here, so I'm just going to pull this straight through. You could snip that end there and then pull it straight through. And then weave that in. So the way I like to weave this in is by matching up the end to the beginning there and mimicking a bit of a stitch. Now obviously this is the inside of your sweater, so it's not gonna make too big of a difference if it's not super tidy. The very last little tail I like to run up in the actual tube of fabric there. And then of course I've got some more tails to weave in on the inside, but then your neckband is done.